great to see you. Welcome to Popternative.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I mean, this is crazy because I remember when this project, Cruel Intentions, was announced. Like, you know what I mean? There's like the waves of everything. Like, even before you were cast, like it was announced and it's coming out soon. Like, is it starting to sink in that people are going to be able to see what you worked on?
I mean, I'm super pumped for it to come out, but it is kind of crazy. Like, it's actually happening now.
Mhm.
So I'm very, very excited for everyone to like finally get to watch it.
There's a
Great.
lot at play when you officially get cast for something like this. There's the fact that we have seen a Cruel Intentions in the past. There's the
Mhm.
fact that it's a ensemble cast. It's got kind of the thriller horror components of it. There's a lot. Is there an element that kind of stands out preliminary for you when you're cast for that? Are you like, oh wow, I'm working on, a really cool thriller series? Am I working on, a new adaptation of Cruel Intention? What's going through your mind early on?
Early on with the process. I mean, just to be a part of such a like iconic, I think,
Yeah.
movie that came out early 2000s, like that era, all of that, I think it was culturally so relevant. There's a huge following kind of behind that too. So to like be a part of that, I think first off is awesome. Like I'm so thankful for it. But I think for me, it's to be a part of something that is so dark and kind of sexy and kind of pushes these like boundaries socially and stuff that
Yeah.
I think that's really cool to like dive into as an actor.
Absolutely. So much happens before you go to camera on Cruel Intentions, right? Like you said, you're kind of discussing everything, you're preparing for the part. So, from an
Mhm.
acting storyteller perspective, you can see it as two journeys, right? Before filming something and then after filming something? Or does it feel like one big journey with multiple steps? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I feel like that's a great question. I think as an actor, it's like we always like have two parts, prep and then like really going for it. But I think with something like this, I think we dove in so quick to like kind of attack this, beast in a way. But I felt like it all just melded into one.
Yep.
But I think having this like for me, having like a character that is not based on like any of the original characters was super fun to take
Yeah.
on because I was just basing it off of what fits in this world and how I navigate through that as that character as Beatrice. And so I think that melded in with just like attacking it once we kind of went into filming. And I think at that point, everyone just understood the dynamic so well. And I think Sarah and Phoebe, who were the creators and showrunners of it, did such a good job of just getting us into this like world of like what we live in there. And I think it was really cool because once we were on set, we could kind of just live in that. And that's like, the ideal. That's what every actor wants to do.
It's so interesting too, because you brought up in the beginning of this interview about being part of kind of like a really cool franchise. We've seen it before and everything. But I find it interesting, right? Because every time someone is cast for something where there was original source material before, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like they're in a unique kind of situation because it's Cruel Intentions, the series, not the film, right? So I'm
Totally.
wondering if you thought about the fact that it was like a unique situation when you were cast because you know what's going on, but at the same time, you don't know what's going on, if that makes sense, right? It's kind of funny, right?
It is. And I think that's why it's like it's cool for us because it is a reimagining. It's in a different setting. It's in kind of this like timeless present kind
Mhm.
of era.
Yep.
We don't focus a ton on like social media on the show, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Um, because it kind of sets it in this timeless world.
Mhm.
And I think that's what makes it different, I think, a little bit from the movie and then from, the original of like Dangerous Liaisons. I think it is just a reimagining of this iconic characters and lifestyle.
Absolutely. And it's
Mhm.
interesting too because this content's always been around. This content in the thriller world, the horror movie world, and everything. And there seems to be just such a big kind of appetite for a lot of this content. It's been around for a while. What's it like
Mhm.
being part of that kind of world at a time where there's this big surge in popularity in the content, and some of the best movies that come out, the most popular movies and TV shows, are in the kind of the thriller horror movie genre?
Oh,
What's that like
totally.
for you?
Totally. I personally love it
Yeah.
because I feel like you get to dive into these really gritty characters
Mhm.
that no one is really a good guy on this show. I
Yep.
think people in general are they have good sides and bad sides and that comes out and it's all about because we're based in, the Greek life. And
Yep.
so, fraternities, sororities, all of that. And I think these dynamics, and like it's a lot of reputation, right?
Yeah,
Especially at that time, that age of being in college, like a lot of it is reputation and how you build
totally.
and what you use to get there and those power dynamics. And I think you find that in a lot of these really awesome films and TV shows that are coming out now that are in that horror, thriller, kind of sexy, gossipy world. And I
Yeah.
think that's what people are really intrigued by. I mean, that's what I'm intrigued by when I watch it. But
And you've
yeah.
worked in like that spooky season kind of world before, right? You did get to work on this, like one of the Strangers films,
I did,
which
yes.
is the first one is like, in my opinion, when people ask me, because there's a difference between your favorite horror movie and the scariest horror movie you've ever seen, right? Those are two different
Totally.
movies. The scariest horror movie I've ever seen is The Strangers, like the original one. Like there's nothing scarier than that movie. And then
Oh,
the
it's
new
so
ones that
great.
came out, I love that whole franchise. One of my favorite franchises. I love that franchise.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new
No,
one
The
coming out. I
Strangers.
can't wait.
Yeah, working on that was really awesome too with Rennie Harlan. He was amazing. And I think just being a part of that, I mean, that whole, I mean, we have multiple coming out, but, being a part of that, I think is super exciting because that is very dark. That is also very iconic. And it really kind of, I think, gets into the nitty gritty of like what scares people and home invasions,
100%.
things like
People are
that.
scary.
Oh my God. Oh,
Well,
yes.
I'm a
Oh, yes.
filmmaker as well. I just got back from LA. My film adjoining what we had our premiere at Screamfest, the Chinese theater in LA that I wrote and
Oh, yeah.
produced. And like I got inspired by things like Strangers as well, because like that's like what it's becoming now. You watch these movies and it's like there's different ways to freak people out right now.
It's never ending. It just keeps going.
It's
And I think
crazy.
that's what you got to find, especially too, if you're taking on the strangers, you're taking on that. You have to find new ways and new intrigue and kind of giving the backstory on that.
Mhm.
And I think then it really dives into, it's not just surface level of the scary. It just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And
Totally. So crazy.
that's why it's horror.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting back to Cruel Intentions. I mean, what is your relationship with the original source material? Do you go back and watch it a lot? Do you kind of throw it away, like from an acting perspective? Because I feel like it can go either way. I feel like some people just like, especially when it's like based on a book, like people don't even look at the book. They just kind
Right.
of go into it. So I'm
They're
just
like, I'm
wondering
just
for
taking
you.
what this is. I think for Cruel Intentions specifically, right? Comes from Dangerous Liaisons,
Yeah.
which I had seen all of these just because I love watching movies. I'm an actor.
Yeah.
I love doing that. But I think the dynamics of like, going from the royal courts and then how Cruel Intentions took it and then how we're taking it in this series with Greek life and all of that. I think the dynamics of it ring true in all of them. And
Yeah.
I think this is just going to kind of complement into that same world.
Mhm.
And I think for me, I had seen all of them. I loved all of them. I rewatched Cruel Intentions when I even like found out about the audition. I was like, oh my gosh, I love Cruel Intentions. So I think it was cool to just get in that mindset of how these characters navigate their world. And I think that is very similar in all of those. I think it's a very different take, and you will see a lot of that when you watch the show. But I think it's what people will do to get where they want to be and how deep and dark and evil they can kind of be within that. And I think that rings true in all of them. And so
Absolutely.
for me, as an acting perspective, it got me in that.
No, that's so well said. It's interesting too, because like it prepares you in a way, because like it can prepare you, but at the same time you can see it as like not being able to prepare you because it's not the book, right? It's not the movie. It's not Dangerous Liaisons. It's the TV show. So I always
Mhm.
find that really interesting because it can go either way. You know what I mean? I think maybe it
Totally.
depends also on the project and how much they're gonna like use the book. Because I'm sure you talk to like the people involved and they're like, it's really based on the book, right? Or based on the movie, right? I feel like it depends on the project, right, Brooke?
It totally does. It
Yeah.
totally does. And I think it's different for each scenario. Obviously, I can speak to my own,
Yeah.
but like with this, they gave us this world right off the bat.
Yeah.
So for us, we didn't have to, I watched that because I love it. I love the original, but they gave us this world to just jump into so easily that we were just living in it. And I think that is a great place to be. And they knew exactly what they want. So every time we stepped on set, they had a vision for this. They knew what these characters were. And we could have these back and forth conversations all the time. So we were able to really just live in that world and see how we would navigate it as those characters. And so it is different for each project that you're on. But this
Uh,
one was, really special.
Totally. And last question before we wrap up. I find it interesting. Whether you worked on a set one time or 1,000 times, there's always going to be learning experiences from an acting storyteller perspective that you'll be able to take for future opportunities, future journeys, future jobs. So that being said, on Cruel Intentions, with everything we kind of talked about in this interview, right? That world you were introduced to, working in that thriller horror movie kind of world, the adaptations, the kind of like sorority component. What were some learning experiences for you, Brooke, from an acting storyteller perspective on Cruel Intentions that you'll take for future projects?
I think talking through the characters and working with them individually, right? Especially in this show, it's a very character-based series.
Yeah.
So how each character interacts with a different person on the show, I think really changes, but it also really shows you as a character how we interact with people differently, and the power struggle and dynamics of that I think people experience in real life, so they can really relate to that.
Yeah.
But I think that for me as an actor, just I really felt it in this series of being able to be like, how would I navigate with each individual person to kind of get where you want?
Absolutely. And, you know, it's highly anticipated. People are so excited about this. People have been talking about Cruel Intentions, the adaptation, the TV series, for a long time. We're finally going to get it in December. Sorry, we're going to get it in, I'm going to edit that out, 5, 4, 3. We're going to get it in November on Prime Video. So that's going to be great, Cruel Intentions. Brooke, so great chatting with you. Thanks so much for your time.
I know, it was great talking with you.
Absolutely. Your Instagram account is just your name, right? If people want to keep update with everything.
Yes, it is. At Brooke Lena Johnson.
Awesome. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Brooke and Peter Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.